Hey guys, the purpose of this video is to show you how I can fertilize 200 trees using tree spikes. My trees aren't doing that great this year. I expected a bit more performance out of them, a bit more growth, so I'm going to be putting some tree spikes in the ground to give them an extra boost. There are a lot of different options out there for fertilizing trees. There's powdered fertilizers, liquid fertilizers, pellets, manure and compost, which I'm a big fan of, and then tree spikes. I decided to go with the tree spikes because once they're in the ground, the fertilizer won't wash away. They have almost direct contact with the roots, so they're really close to the roots to pick up those nutrients. And they're easy to install. They last a long time and easy to put into the ground. The tree spikes which I chose to be installing today are these Miracle Grow tree spikes. Got them on Amazon. The reviews were just fantastic. It's a good brand name. They're really easy to install, and it was free shipping, so you can't go wrong. They were just delivered right to my front door. I got one set of spikes for trees with leaves on them, and then the type for evergreen. I ended up buying 10 packages for the deciduous trees and 10 for the evergreens because I have about 200 trees. You'll find 12 spikes per box. So when you take the plastic coating off of the packaging, you have this box inside, and within you have the different tree spikes. So they're about 6 inches long and pretty big around. You also find these caps that go on top of the tree spikes for when you're inserting them into the ground. Here's what the difference between the two types of fertilizer. This one is for the deciduous trees and this one is for the evergreen trees. The instructions on the box are as follows. So they want you to install the spikes around the drip line of the tree, which is fine because that's where the roots are, of course, and you don't want to put it in too close because there's a lot of roots there and you don't want to end up burning your roots. So keeping them on the perimeter of the tree where the water would fall, that's where you'd want to install these. And they say to just use a hammer and make a hole in the ground first with the hammer just by giving it a hit in the ground, and then put the spike there, put the cover on top, and then hit it with the hammer until it's about 2 inches below the soil surface. For the count, you want to have about one spike every 3 to 4 feet on the perimeter of the tree. In my case, where I've got so many trees and on a limited budget, I'm only going to be installing about one per tree. I won't be installing them on the small trees because I'll still be using the liquid fertilizer because I want to give them a boost immediately and not a long-term boost. I can do both, but again, I'm just going to doing the liquid fertilizer for those. And any trees that just aren't going to survive, they're not healthy, I won't be putting any stakes in the ground for those as well. So as I mentioned, the spikes come with caps. Don't use the caps, it's just thin plastic. They're going to break. Here's an example of when I was installing them, of what happened when I was trying to use the instructions found on the box. Do a place to put the spike, and then put a cap on it like that. Hit it with the hammer. There you go. First one put in, some of it did break away, but that's alright. Put the cap back on. Which, aha, look at that. The cap is broken already with the first one. So, I'm not really happy with that. But so obviously the cap is no good. It's not really distributing the pressure from the spike. It's going to cause the spike to split, to break. You won't get it down to the ground as far as you wanted it to. It's going to cause the caps to split. They're not going to last. So I'll show you a better method to install these. So this is one of the methods that I've used to install the spikes. I put a pilot hole in the ground first. The advantage of putting a pilot hole in the ground is you get to identify if there are any rocks below before you start putting in the real deal. So put a pilot hole in the ground first at about 8 inches, and then pull the device used for the pilot hole out, then insert the spike. It should go in pretty pretty easily. Make sure your pilot hole is not too big, otherwise any water that will get down there will cause it to dissolve and then come to the surface. You want the purpose of these is to keep them into the ground. So what I was using, it was this surveying stick. Hitting it with a hammer to drive it into the ground. Found a couple of rocks, which then I just relocated the pilot hole so that I could have a successful install. You could pretty much use anything for the pilot hole. There's a piece of an old dowel here. You could make a point on the end of it, drive that into the ground. I wouldn't go any wider than an inch in diameter, since these are only about an inch and a half wide. You still want it to fit snugly into the ground. The best solution I found though was to create this pilot hole machine here. All it is just a 3/4 inch square pipe. The end has been flattened with a hammer, and it's quite long, as you can see. It's about 6.5 feet. You don't need it to be that long, but the purpose of it is to just drive that into the ground. And at the end of it here, I've got a place where I can step on it and push it into the ground even further. So I've got a good deep pilot hole, and it's long. I could just easily pull it out of the ground, so there's no challenge there. So that seems to be the easiest method. So I'll just show you how to get these into the ground. So right here I'm just going to talk to you quickly about the drip zone. If there was raining and there's a lot of heavy water pouring down the leaves on this tree, the water would be falling to the outer parts, and that's roughly about right here where I've got this stake in the ground, and that's where we should be installing the spikes for an evergreen tree. For an evergreen tree, the drip zone is at the very base, so you just want to install them at about 6 to 8 inches inside of the where the last bough extends. So I'll just give you a quick demo on how I do the install using the tool that I have there. If the ground is really hard and you can't press the tool for making the pilot hole into the ground, then you'd want to use a sledgehammer or something to give it a solid hit into the ground. Okay, so I'll show you where I just put that hole in the ground. So you can see it's right here. There you go, and I just drop the spike in. And I prefer to push it in as much as I can with my hand first, before I start actually putting any additional pressure on it. I'm going to use this dowel here and give it some extra push. And if you can't get it to go down any farther than that, you can just use the dowel like this and hit it with a hammer slightly to push it into the ground, or if you're strong enough you might be able to just push it down with your hands. So now I'm going to show you how it's done for an evergreen tree. You just want to place the spike just inside of the drip line, so about right here. In this example here, I'm on a little bit of a slope, so I'm going to use that to my advantage and put the spikes on the upside of the slope, so that when this does finally dissolve and get absorbed by the tree, it will run downhill and towards the tree, so it can take advantage of the nutrients, rather than putting it on the other side where it can just run away. It will still work, but it'll be more effective if you put it on the uphill side of the tree. So I'm just going to put my pilot hole into place and then insert the spike. So you can see the ground is very hard here. So trying to insert the spike without a pilot hole would end up in crushing the spike before it even got anywhere near the roots. Here's a quick view of my workflow for these columnar aspens. I put the pilot holes in the ground first and then went and installed all the spikes individually. So there you have it. That concludes my video on how to install tree spikes for fertilizer from Miracle-Gro. If you have any questions, please leave them below, and please like this video.